we got a lot to cover, so give us your full attention. We're going to be sharing a lot of tactics, a lot of details here, and we're pretty excited to share this with you. So again, if you're just joining,
we're ready to go?
I think so, yeah.
All right, Organizing 2.0. What's up, everybody? Now we are kicking off. We are continuing today's, as Charles said, the No Pants Progressive Conference of Organizing 2.0. And I assure you, I am wearing my suit jacket, but I promise you do not want me to stand up. So we want to introduce you to the We and Goliath team, Daniel, Michelle, We and Goliath. And if you've been enjoying this conference, I'm going to tell you a little story about, what was it, 3 weeks ago? About that? So 3 weeks ago, Charles Lenscher, the co-founder of Organizing 2.0, calls me and says, hey, guess what? We were going to have this really great conference we have every year for organizing called Organizing 2.0, but there's a pandemic. And what happened is Daniel, Michelle, and I had co-produced an online training series called Be the Revolution. And Charles was one of our speakers on that from People for Bernie. And he said, yours is kind of close to what we want to do. We want it to be a little more comprehensive. What do you think? And then I said, of course, because I know that Daniel and Michelle have so many incredible tech solutions for exactly this kind of thing. And they've been incredible to work with. So very excited to connect with y'all for this.
Totally. So we and Goliath. If you want to check out the online summit we all put together, it's betherevolution.us. Oops, we got a typo there. Or maybe
Mary. Hey, Mary. Mary's here. Awesome.
So this is the online summit we all hosted.
If you could click leave, or just all.
No, we don't love you. We do. We don't want to.
Yeah, we love you. We really do love you.
So Jay, tell them a little bit about what the Be the Revolution online summit was. Give us the quick story on that for a little context for what an online summit can look like and how you pulled that off with our help, and then we're going to be diving into online conferences and summits, all the steps that go into them and how to make them a big success.
Yeah, so it's very much in alignment with Organizing 2.0, capacity building, skill building. There's so many new activists. There's so many, even for those who've been in the game for a long time. I wanted to center and feature the activists that I've worked with, that I respect, people like Bill McKibben, Tom Hartman, Josh Fox, David Braun, Charles Lenscher from People for Bernie, and everyone has their own specific set of skills. This is also around a book that I'm putting out called The Political Revolutionaries Handbook. So we presented this online. There's the book version, but we want to do this online. I had worked with Michelle and Daniel on a big conference in Denver, and I was so blown away by your professionalism and your heart and how much love, how much you cared about progressive causes and changing the world. And so I called them up and I said, this is my idea to create this free training. And that's what we did. So we reached out to our network and we created a training series. And Daniel and Michelle basically made it happen in terms of all of the tech side of it and a lot of the marketing strategy.
Yeah, thank you. And you had pulled together so many amazing speakers for that. So later in this talk, Jay's going to talk a little bit about how you pull together speakers and most importantly, how you get them to share. And leveraging the power of the people that you bring into your summit or conference is a big part of your success. So he's going to share some tips about that later this session. So yeah, Michelle and I pulled together the tech marketing for Be the Rev, and then Charles reached out to us to do the same for Organizing 2.0. It's been a real honor to pull this off, and let's.
It's bananas.
Yeah, in 3 weeks, it has been a really crazy time.
And I was going to tell you that let's give them a round of applause. Like, wherever you're at, just start clapping if you like what you heard. Just clap wherever you're at, because you have no idea. Like the amount of work and time they put in 3 weeks to pull this off is insanity. And
and I'll add, this is a pioneering software. Like, this has never been done before on something like this comprehensive level. So, yeah, apologies if you had some tech issues, but we're glad it's gone as smoothly as it has.
Yeah, and of course the
Thank
Organizing
you.
2.0 crew, like, amazing work
They
do.
rock.
Yeah.
They've been
They're
doing
amazing.
this for so many years. Just for the tech side, 3 weeks is generally not enough. Okay, if you're thinking about putting on an online summit or conference of your own, just write in the chat, yes, or I want to host. Okay, let us see how many people are thinking of doing this themselves. We got a lot of people. This is amazing.
Ooh.
Dozens of people are wanting to host.
Good.
Super cool. Perhaps, yeah. I want to host. Yes.
Amazing.
Okay.
Yeah, and also, like, why do you want to host as well? Let us know why you want to host.
Yeah. We have 116 people with us right now, and looks like most of them are here for the right reason. You guys want to make this happen for yourself or for your organization. So your first thing you're probably going to wonder is, can I pull this off, right? How many people are a little worried that this is a big deal? Type I am. Are you worried that pulling off an online conference of your own is going to be a ton of work, a ton of time, a ton of money, that you're not going to be able to handle the complexity of it? You're not sure if you'll put together the team, or how do you manage this? Yeah, you're probably right.
You're correct.
You're probably right. You can't do this, at least not on your own. Okay, that's the key. This is the first takeaway that we need you to know. I'm sure you already know this. You're going to need a good amount of time, some budget, a kick-ass team, the right software, and probably some consultants like us or another group who can be pulling together a lot of those pieces in one, because you don't want to work with 20 different teams either, right?
But there are some ways that you can do it on your own as well. You can start simply. You can start where you're at. You can just do something simply on Facebook Live. So there are ways to start up small, but if you're thinking about doing something bigger like this, then, can't do it alone.
So today we're going to cover the strategies and tactics to launch an impactful virtual summit or conference. We're going to go over a lot of the details here, so we're going to be moving pretty quickly. First, let's start with the big picture, okay? You want to just see the roadmap. First thing to think about is, what are your goals for the event? It's really important you get clear on what does success look like to you, right? What are your priorities? Do you want to build your list as big as possible, maximize your revenue, build big partnerships, grow your community, just get visibility, right? You can do all those things with a virtual summit or conference, but you need to know which one is most important to you and which ones are second, right? When you know that primary goal, then you will know how to prioritize your resources for the big picture. Okay, so these are what we consider the primary areas you're going to focus on while organizing your online event: strategy and planning, design and development, promotion, sponsorship, speakers, post-event. And let's say your primary goal is to build the biggest email list possible. You're going to focus on getting great speakers who have big lists and promotion. If your goal is revenue, you're going to be focusing on sponsorship and promotion, design and development, right? You need a really high converting website. You need post-event strategies. If your goal is partnership, you're going to be focusing on promotion, speakers. So, and also you'll be focusing differently with your budget and your team, right? If your goal is based on which people you want to hire and where you put your resources. So we're going to cover a couple key tactics for each of these categories that we think are most impactful, most leveraged, that we've used for our previous events here. Now, this is what we really consider the full roadmap to put together your online summit. Don't try to read it, but
it's a lot.
Type checklist in the chat if you would like our full checklist. We're going to have the chat afterwards. We'll probably send this out to everybody if there's a lot of interest. Looks like there is. Okay, so if you're on this chat right now, if you're in this session, we're going to be sending out a couple resources, and this will be one of them. So great, thank you. All right, moving on.
It'll be after the event that we'll send it to you, because as long as you chat it to us, we know we have your contact info.
Excellent. So let's dive in. We're going to get started by talking about planning and strategy. So first thing, you want to know what the format of your event should be, right? Are you going to do an online conference or a summit? And I'm going to just tell you a couple of the key, well, let's have Michelle jump in here. Michelle, tell us, what are the key benefits of each? Why should somebody choose one or the other?
Sure. So basically, if you're starting out, a summit is a good way to start building your list, because having a bigger conference, you need a lot of people to get on board. So you want to get other speakers and use that summit as your list building strategy. And then you could follow up afterwards with a conference that brings people together and builds the community. So you could also start with a smaller group of people in a conference format, but don't try to get too big too fast.
Mm-hmm. I would add, a summit is best if you want to have a lot of speakers who are promoting for you and you're focusing on list building. A conference is probably best for you if you want to maximize interactivity and sponsorship and revenue. Okay,
And
summits are often free and conferences are often paid. That's not always, but
not always. But a difference between a conference and a summit is that a conference has more interactivity. Like what you're at here, this is a conference, and there's more speakers, but there's also people that are in it and talking with each other. So a summit is more of a format where there's just speakers and people are watching those speakers talk.
One of the virtues of the summit as well is you can actually pre-record the material. So you can do your interviews ahead of time. You can record them on Zoom or Skype, and you can actually have it set to go. You can do it live as well, so that you can have some interactivity. But one of the virtues, you actually can do your production ahead of time with the summit.
Mm-hmm. All right, now planning and strategy number 2, surveying your list. So Michelle, tell us about the value of this. Why do surveys really matter?
The main thing is just not assuming right away that you know exactly what the attendees that are going to come to your event are going to want. So you want to get as much feedback as possible. And you can do that through social media. You can do that by finding somebody that already has a big list if you don't have a big list, and have them survey their audience. And just get as much of that feedback as possible. And then you can decide the topics that are going to be discussed at your event and the overarching title for your event.
It's also, when you're building community, also with list building, it's really important to be in a dialogue. So you're not just talking at them, but ask them what they want. And you can then curate the content and have your list be more interactive and more engaging.
Last thing about surveys, I'll say, with our digital marketing agency, we in Goliath, we often use surveys as a real conversion rate optimization tactic. This is some of the most advanced marketing that I know of out there. Conversion rate optimization means an A/B test. You're comparing two versions of a page. By surveying your audience and learning about their challenges, you find their language. You find what really matters to them. Where are they struggling with? And you use that language when you're speaking about your product. Anytime you're going to launch a new product, service, event, company, you need to know what matters to the people you're reaching, right? Why are they connecting with you to begin with? A survey is a great way to do that. We've been able to help some other nonprofits increase their conversion rates on their key product pages by over 50% using language from a survey. So definitely recommended. A lot of people will try to skip this thing. I know my audience, but don't overestimate the power of really hearing it in their own words. Jay, tell us about mindset. As you were organizing, leading Be the Revolution Online Summit, you grew a lot as a person, and you learned a lot about team building and overcoming obstacles. So tell us how important that is and some key learnings you had.
Absolutely. So some of you may have more experience already. You may be more comfortable going live. For me, I've always been someone who works more behind the scenes than out front. I will speak at rallies. I will do things if I have to, or do interviews. I prefer not to. So for me, this level of visibility was uncomfortable, and I found that when it came down to it, having a team around me to go through some of the emotional challenge of being visible, being vulnerable, putting your ideas out, being worried about failure, all of those things, having the team was really essential. Now, conversely, on this side, I also do executive coaching. So being able to support people through that process is incredibly important, especially for impacted communities. We have suffered a lot of traumas, and historical, personal, whatever. This can be really difficult. So I found for me, I would call Daniel and Michelle all the time, and I would just be vulnerable with them and tell them, guys, like, this is really uncomfortable for me. So for me, that mindset was really important. Also, perfectionism. You got to throw out perfectionism. Do the best you can. Start where you're at. We get to get beyond the being afraid to fail part. Again, having that team, really important. For me, one of the real virtues of working with Daniel and Michelle is that, especially Daniel is incredible at getting every single goal, every single timeline point, hitting those marks, which to me, like, that's not been one of my strong suits. So that was incredibly useful to me. So I would say, like, having a team mindset and being willing to be vulnerable with your team is really important to talk you through those emotional challenges.
Thanks, Jay. All right, we're seeing so much interest in the checklist, Michelle. People are going to be really grateful for you for sending that out. All right, we're going to talk about promotion tactics now, all right? So this is kind of one of our key specialties. We're going to dive in deep here. How many people know that promotion is one of the most important things for your event, right? Have anybody here written a blog post, spent like over a couple hours, 2, 3, 4 hours, and been really disappointed by not seeing any comments or a lot of reactions, or you posted a video and it didn't get any views? Imagine if you spend 3, 4, 5 weeks or 2, 3, 4 months putting together a great conference and you don't focus on promotion. You have like 20 people show up. How's that going to feel, right? Do not underestimate the importance of promotion. A tip from helping clients promote their blogs: you want to spend as much time promoting a blog post or a video as you do creating it. Usually takes me about 4 hours to write my best blog post I could. How many of us spend 4 hours promoting a blog post or a video? Nobody, right? But that's how the pros do it. If you want to get the most value,
or even more.
Yeah.
Or even more time, really.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think later we should get back to content repurposing as well with the blog post. I think that's really powerful.
We will. That's a key tactic we're going to talk about at the end. So this is an overview of the promotion tactics that you want to keep in mind. And Jay and I and Michelle, we're going to talk about a couple of the key ones. Let me just give a little overview here. So owned media means free marketing, things that you can control. So your email list, your social media, your blog, maybe you have a list of text messages that you can write out to, and calling your friends and your partners. Okay? Owned media means free. Paid media is advertising. Facebook, Google, and we're going to talk about a pro tool called omni-channel retargeting that we do in Goliath for people, where you send out ads everywhere. Jay's going to talk a bit about earned media. You want to just touch on that briefly now?
Yeah. To me, it's not just about focusing on one strategy, it's a multitude of strategies. So a lot of times in direct action organizing, we don't think about how do we integrate all of these strategies. Is your virtual summit going to promote a direct action or a campaign or something you're going to do? And conversely, are you going to use a direct action or a guerrilla stunt, for instance, to get visibility for something else you're going to do, like your virtual summit? So I don't know if we want to go to the other slide real quick about the earned media. But one of the reasons that this tactic of summits and developing a network and working with influencers is really powerful is because influencers, whether they're organizational leaders or someone who has a higher profile, a higher public profile, they have a big reach. They have a big reach. They can give credibility to your cause. And so these tactics can be really important, especially for then hacking into the larger media narratives. So that, in my opinion, that's really where a lot of the systemic change comes. So like when we did the Clooney counterparty, we used maybe we could just go to that slide. We did the Clooney counterparty where we threw the money outside of George Clooney's George Clooney's house. There was a Hillary Clinton fundraiser that was $350,000 per plate, and $33,000 per plate. So when the motorcade went by, we threw up $1,000, and the mainstream media went bananas, right? So that was one of the tactics. You can flip the next slide. In this next one, we worked with, this is when we launched the bank exit campaign. So the power of influencers in social justice organizing, to me, is one of the most important tactics. In this action, we reached out to initially Susan Sarandon, and we launched the bank exit campaign, which was asking people to take their money out of the banks funding the Dakota Access Pipeline, funding immigrant detention centers, private prisons, things like that. And this, because of these influencers, we were able to get on People magazine, and between the Clooney Counterparty and this, we generated worldwide news. This one in particular, Bank Exit, because of Susan Sarandon, Bill McKibben, Shailene Woodley, a lot of those participants in this Indigenous-led movement, we generated in 4 days 50 million impressions, and 60,000 people committed to taking their money out of the banks. And then that really spiraled, right? So with the virtual summit, we combined that strategy of telling those stories, but you can also use these earned media stunts, the guerrilla tactics that the Yes Men would use, Abby Hoffman. You can do some research on them, but you can use that to then promote either your virtual summit or your campaign or whatever you're going to do.
So that's amazing, Jay. I mean, Bank Exit was so powerful and effective for the number of how small the team was on that and the impact that you guys made.
We launched it in 2 days. That one we did we launched it in 2 days, and then within 4 days, we had something like 50 million impressions and 60,000 people committed.
So if somebody was gonna want to do some sort of PR stunt with their campaign, what is like the key takeaway about what makes that effective? Why do some work and some fall flat?
Storytelling. I would say being entertaining, being like storytelling. A lot of times progressives, social justice activists, the mission is so heavy, and the impacted communities, it's so heart-wrenching. We want to communicate that, but a lot of times I find our ability to communicate that sometimes falls short because it's very heavy-handed. And a lot of people who aren't ready to hear that message yet, they tune out. So I'm an acolyte of the Abby Hoffman Yes Men school of being absolutely relentlessly entertaining, being outrageous, like the ability to create viral content, entertain people. If you can entertain people and deliver a message, it's a really winning combination. Combine that with, again, like I don't really care about celebrity, but for me, it's always been the most effective tactic I've known of to get the popular culture to give a shit about whatever the cause was, right? And to get people to care and to engage. So I would say, whenever you can, try to engage them, and you'll find that most of the people I've worked with are incredibly approachable. They care. They know the culture. A lot of them don't, but some of them really do. Mark Ruffalo really knows the culture, understands the culture, works with frontline communities. So if you're passionate, I would say also have your collateral, your stuff together, have a really good deck, have a really good one-pager. You can reach out to them on Twitter, social media. A lot of times they'll have a charity. So I would say like those are a few takeaways to sort of bring all those elements together for a successful action. People are loving that tip. Be relentlessly entertaining. The other one I would share is piss people off, right? Yes men are amazing at being funny. Brand attack is the other one that I think has been extremely effective. Like forest ethics, I believe. Brand attack is another PR stunt that you could say scares people a lot. Go on YouTube and just watch Yes Men videos. They would create a mock. Go look up Share Safety. Share the Safety, where they hijacked the NRA's campaign, and they started a campaign to every time you buy a gun, they will donate a gun to a frontline community member, and it was hilarious. It was absolute agitate. But watch Share the Safety on YouTube for the Yes Men. They're absolutely brilliant, and they would get these conferences to actually let them in as the NRA. So I think they're masters at it.
Amazing. That's cool. We have forest ethics in the building. Love you guys. So people are asking about the recordings. If you did not sign up for this in advance, you can get the recording for this talk. We're going to put it up on our YouTube channel at We and Goliath. So just, Michelle, maybe you could paste in the link for that. And we'll share at the end of our slide as well. I've also got a PDF with like about 100 tools that I recommend. If anybody wants that, hit tools in the chat, and I'll send out that link later on. And
take advantage of the offer for Daniel to sit down and suggest some of these tools. Every time it's like, I have a challenge. I'm like, I don't have enough money. We didn't do it. We didn't have any money for this. We don't have any money, for this kind of thing. And Daniel's like, oh, sure. Just use Voodoo, whatever platform. We've got 100 different tools to integrate for everything.
Okay, that's enough tools, comments. I get the point. I'm going to email a link where you can sign up for my PDF. I put together this very detailed thing, 15 categories of tools, all the best free and discounted tools, including how to get 10 grand free of Google ad spend per month as a grant. I guess I didn't have to ask that question. You guys are right. Moving on. Michelle, tell us all about retargeting, our favorite type of ads, and why. Wait, Michelle, I think you're muted. No. Jay, can you hear Michelle?
I can't hear Michelle.
Uh-oh. Michelle, check your audio settings. Maybe you're... Okay, she's coming in and out. Anybody heard of retargeting ads? Type yes or no. Let us know. Yes or no? Have you heard of retargeting ads?
Basically, when someone stalks you.
Looks like 50-50. Okay, so yeah, retargeting ads, Jay says, are when somebody stalks you. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So you've probably, Amazon has been doing this like crazy. Everybody started doing them over the last few years. They do them because they are the cheapest. Michelle, test your audio now.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yeah, you're back. All right, so okay, I was just saying that they're stocking ads and they're super cheap. Tell us why, how they work, how people should use them for their online events.
Yeah, so when you start your event, like when you start promoting early, preferably around 3 months ahead of time at least, then you want to put a pixel on your website, and that pixel will actually track all of the visitors that go to your website from ads and any other partner promotions. And then you can actually do what is called retargeting, which is send them ads later on. So yes, Carolina, you say you love them and hate them. Sure, they are like a little annoying for people, but they do work, and that's the reality of the situation. Like you can get 70% up to 70% of people coming back to your site just from putting that retargeting pixel on there and using it effectively. So Carrie, we'll send some information out. I don't want to get into too much technical details on this because we don't have that much time, but yeah, we'll be happy to share some tools for using that retargeting pixel.
So the reason why retargeting ads are so much cheaper, okay? A lot of people mentioned above that they hired a Facebook ads consultant and it cost more than it made them, right? That's a common thing. There's a lot of reasons for that, and we don't have time to go into all the things about Facebook ads, but one reason is unless your targeting is super dialed in, you're reaching a bunch of people who've never heard about you, who maybe don't care about what you're offering. They're not your people. So retargeting ads are a way to only send ads to people who've already visited your website. Okay, so your relevance is so much higher to those people. And when your relevance score is high in Facebook, then your ad costs are low. That's the main reason that those ads are cheaper. And then Michelle, I know
the
you
other
have
key to the other key to not making them annoying is to switch them up. And that's where a lot of companies, they get it wrong. Like they don't they don't switch them up. They send you the same ad over and over in multiple different places, and then it just gets redundant. So if you're showing them different things and keeping them interesting, then they perform better.
Mm-hmm. Last point I want to make there is you've got one type of retargeting ad, like just Facebook retargeting or just Google. But then at We in Goliath, we also do omni-channel retargeting ads. So through one pixel, a pixel is a way to track somebody who visits your website. We then run ads across Google, YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, thousands of media outlets and blogs and websites, and they are everywhere. And then we rotate them, like Michelle is saying. This is like very advanced level. We've got a 50-page guide for that. It takes just of implementation steps to set it up. It is tough work, but the costs per click are so low. So I don't recommend spending a ton of money on ads unless you're doing retargeting, because they are by far the cheapest. Make sure, even if you're only doing one type of ad, consider retargeting if you have enough website traffic.
Yeah, and we'll get to it. We'll get to it later, but this also helps with post-event strategy, just keeping in touch with people later, or if you want to drive them to a different event after your main event. So
let's talk about
with that.
Oh, sorry. Let's talk about free promotion, right?
Yeah,
so
that's going to be
you don't have an ad budget.
What do we do if I don't have a budget? Does everybody have a budget? I know I don't. Yeah, so you have to do the best you get. Exactly. Yeah, so we get to be plucky and resourceful and reinvent ourselves, right? Yeah, what's money? So one of the beauties about this strategy is, number one, building transformational relationships, right? So not just transactional relationships, not just quid pro quo, but building transformative relationships. Charles and I have, we are co-conspirators, right? We've been talking for a while. I wanted to feature his his experience on the summit because I think it's valuable. And then later on, he called me. So power of transformational coalition building. But this is the other part. One of the challenges I would say a lot of people go through is that they'll produce a summit, but they'll ask their friends who they think are great activists, but they don't necessarily have a lot of reach. I would really encourage you to focus on starting with organizations and activists and influencers who have an email list of about 5,000 people. That strategy I learned from Shanda Sumter. You can follow her. She does mostly coaching type stuff, but she has a lot of really, really great suggestions if you follow her on Facebook. Shanda Sumter really focuses on that. But 5,000 person email lists and above. When you do that, the beauty is if you're doing a 21-day summit or you're doing a 2-day summit where you have multiple people, having everybody email their list for you, then you do an email capture off of that, then you get to build a list. Then in turn, I always, as a thank you, working in a transformational way, a transformative way, then always want to support and uplift what they're doing as well. So I offer people who participate to contact me so that we can use that list again to continue to uplift their message. Yeah, also, social media, powerful one too. That you can do Facebook Lives. You could in theory do an entire summit on Facebook Live. I would also recommend looking at different platforms that Dan and Michelle have to offer, like this one. But you can ask your influencers and your speakers to also do a Facebook Live, do Facebook posts. So, but again, like the promotional period is really important. And don't assume because they say they're going to email, they're going to. They may mean it at the time when they say it, but I don't assume that it's going to happen. You get to be a little bit. The name again was Shanda Sumter, Hardcore Business. You can follow her. She does a lot with email list leveraging and marketing. I really recommend a lot of good strategies there. But don't just assume. I also I cannot afford a virtual assistant, but I hired one anyways. So having a virtual assistant, taking off your plate the things you're not good at. So there are virtual assistants that you can get. You can also, there's a lot of different ways to create support around that, but I very much recommend that. And email the list, ask them to email twice, ask them for a dedicated email. So not just an email couched in with their normal newsletter, right? You're not going to have as much as much traction. Also make sure you're signed up for that email list, and let them know when it's supposed to go out, and, you know, be in dialogue with them so that they know it's going to go on Friday, you know, May 3rd, for instance. So then, you know, be on their email list. If it doesn't go out, just, again, a gentle nudge, or your assistant, hey, want to give you a gentle nudge, just want to know if that email went out, and so on and so forth. But I would not recommend to just, don't recommend just assuming it's going to happen.
So
and make it as easy as possible for them to share it too, so that they barely have to think. So make sure it's all written out. Give them their headers. If you have any header images for their email, all of that stuff, do it yourself. It's worth the extra effort.
You can go on Fiverr. Actually, Michelle really mostly handled that for Be the Revolution, and for our upcoming Badass Women of the Resistance Summit coming up May 30th and 31st. So Michelle went in and took we collected the headshots and bios from the speakers. Michelle created graphics for each one that can be posted on the speaker's social media and be sent out to their list.
I just put a link in the chat. Badasswomen.betherevolution.us is the next online summit we're putting together. It's the second one from Be the Revolution. And take a look at the speakers that Jay pulled together. He's really a master at building relationships. You know, he's not shy to reach out and give support, and he gives a lot of value to people, and people recognize that and rave about him and say you need to connect with him, and that's how this all grows. And he's not shy about asking, like he said, ask and give. But be committed to each other, because part of that is there is a contract, a commitment, a sacred commitment you're making to be in solidarity, right? So the original summit was called Be the Revolution: How to Create Vision, Strategies, and Solidarity for Sustainable Social Movements. So part of that is to be committed to serving others, and be generous. You know, continue to be generous. If it's really about taking for your mission, if there's an energy of taking, people really are they're sensitive to that. They can pick up on it. You know, our energy is very, we're not as slick as we think we are. So be radically authentic. I recommend being radically authentic and transparent as well. So, but part of that is show up for each other. And that's May 30th and 31st. So you can sign up. I apologize. I actually have a typo on the homepage there right now. Jay just let me know. So it's got the wrong dates on the webpage because we just postponed it due to COVID. So we are pushing back. It'll be May 30 and 31st, Badass Women of the Revolution.
And by the way, the reason that check this out, how important this team, on the eve of it, I got sucked once the COVID crisis happened. I was so sucked into mutual aid effort organizing and sourcing PPE and working with the city and state leaders. I forgot to postpone the summit. And I get a call from Daniel saying, hey, Jay, you might want to let your people know. Because the first list build was successful, I didn't even know we had a ton of people signed up and we did zero promotion, right? And Daniel, again, was able to catch that, which was really, really important.
I think that was Michelle, and I took credit for it. Good job, Michelle.
Yes. I wasn't going to say anything, but I let it slide.
Yeah.
Well, he made the call. So.
As the project manager, I often get credit for stuff that Michelle comes up with.
Yeah.
All right. One last thing on leveraging lists. So Jay said a lot about leveraging the lists of your speakers, right? But here's a couple other tips, right? So you should be building up your own list from day one. Everybody forgets to build their own list, right? You think you'll start later, you don't have enough value to offer, add an email capture on your website, say coming soon, even before you have your product, just with an idea, start getting interest, right? But if you have a list, start telling people way early, even before you have a date. Let them know you're thinking about it. Do they have a speaker that you would recommend, right? Start a conversation with people. Give a lot of value to your list. Then your speakers lists, then partner lists. Jay's probably going to talk more about that later, but you can reach out to organizational partnerships are super key. They don't have to pay, right? They don't have to be a paid sponsor. You can create a partnership just by asking them to email and then put their logo on your site. And I'll talk more about that under the sponsorship section. So think about all the different people that you can engage, all the different lists. One more thing would be like a email for email, right? If you have, if you're friends with somebody, you know the owner of a related organization, then promote each other's things. So email is crucial for all of us that don't have the biggest budgets, and you can do the same on social. You can do the same on video. Shout out each other. Whatever platform you're big on, leverage that to give value and ask for that in return. All right, so moving on. Michelle's got a great tip here on making the most value from your summit. You put a lot of work into it. How do you maximize that?
So when you're working with speakers, it's important to be able to maximize your time by just record as much as you possibly can with them ahead of time. So you want to do a promotional video, for example, and get them to do that promotional video while you're doing a dry run for their actual talk if they're going live at your event. So you say, we're going to spend the first 5 minutes just doing a quick promo video. And then the next 5 minutes, just do a quick teaser about a key point that you're going to make during your talk in the event. And then you could even get them do a testimonial for the event after that, or even for you and your personal efforts. And that way, when you go to edit later, you'll be able to chop that up really easily. You won't have to look through your entire talk to try to edit out different videos. And Jay knows because he spent a lot of time editing for Be the Revolution. And it's a very complex thing to try to do that if you're doing pre-recorded stuff. So, and you want those videos ahead of time so that then you can run ads with those videos. You could share them with other organizations, and it goes a lot further.
Great. We're going to start moving a little quicker here so we make sure we have enough time for Q&A.
But definitely the one point, give yourself enough time, because I'll tell you, like procrastination, this is another time where team is really, really important. But definitely give yourself enough time to create, record, edit, and promote for sure.
Mm-hmm. Jay, in just a couple of minutes, tell us some key tips about recruiting sponsors and giving them the value that you offer them.
Yeah, I think that one, being able to communicate the power of all of the transformational coalitions working together, so it's about the aggregate reach. The aggregate. So you can, for instance, once you start collecting the information on your team, on your speakers, on your list, you can see how many social media followers do they have. Ask them how big is their list, right? Then you can based on that, again, add up those numbers, and you can see this is how many people we can project this is going to reach. So that's an important point. I think also the power of your influencers can be really something that different partners want to associate themselves with as well. Like for instance, for this summit, the organizational partners are the CLC, the New York State AFL-CIO, CUNY School of Labor and Urban Studies, Act Blue, SUNY Empire, New Mode, New Media Mentors, which is Alana, the co-founder of this summit. And you can use this as a platform to then also uplift them, uplift your sponsors, who also in turn probably have a list and probably will promote for you. Daniel, you have a really great strategy on that, I remember as well.
Oh yeah, thanks. So
a good one that I like.
So how many people think you're not going to be able to get a big sponsor, right? Worried, right? Like that seems a little intimidating, right? You're starting your first conference, and how are you going to get sponsors that can actually pay you thousands of dollars to cover your costs, right? And make this big. Here's the secret, right? Start small. We call it stone soup technique. Okay. So you start really small. You start with either somebody that you already have a relationship with, or somebody really micro niched and very small but targeted, super targeted, and ask them not for money, but just for the smallest thing that you know they'll say yes to. It could be a link to your website from their website. And just for that link, you put their logo on your summit. You go to the second person and you say, would you just make one social post about our event, and we'll put your logo on our website? And somebody says, back to the previous slide. That's
but the point is, you have two sponsors. So that the time you go to the third sponsor, you have two sponsors already. So stone soup means you start with a stone, this person has a carrot, that person has a potato, then you started with a stone
and turns into something big. And after you have a few, then you start asking for money, right? Then you ask, because you need money to pull off an online conference. You need to hire a team, you need to do some ads, you have tech costs, and sponsors are one great way to do that. You can give a lot of value to sponsors through things like the expo booth in here, through logos, through giving them a speech, a talk in the sessions, through interviewing them, giving them a dedicated email. There's so many ways. But you won't get those big sponsors unless you have a lot of small sponsors. So Stone Soup method, get on a bunch of small sponsors.
And we got Union Strong here. We got SEIU 1199 here. Hey, what's going on, Nakia? Great to see all the unions.
We don't have much time to talk about production here, but Jay, just in a minute, give us some quick tips. What are the key points?
Quick tips. Fellas, don't be afraid of makeup. Be comfortable in your mask, in yourself. A simple LED light, simple LED light here. A little bit of lighting goes a long way. I created this backdrop. This cost me about $50, and I just took my image from my book, The Political Revolutionary's Handbook, and I got it printed. It cost me about $50 to do. Really simple webcam, and a little bit can go a long way. Thank you.
Michelle.
Shameless. It's not right.
Yeah, if you're doing a conference format too, just really think outside the box. It doesn't need to be a bunch of speakers. You can mix it up. You can have music. You could have interactive things like icebreaker. If any of you were on the icebreaker thing last night, that was really fun. Where, just don't be dull. It doesn't need to be dull. Like, really try to make it as fun as possible.
I got a question about the book. It's called The Political Revolutionary's Handbook. In the sponsor section, you can go and click on the websites there. You can just go to betherevolution.us. And if you scroll down, there's some information there, or jponte.com. And we're putting out there'll be something to download. Just stay in touch though. We're putting that out. So it's sort of our experiences from Occupy to Standing Rock and beyond.
All right.
Also, to that point that I was just making, if you go back to the sessions, not right now, but later on, there's a hallway now. I don't know if you noticed that, but you can actually talk to each other, and it makes it a little bit more interesting to get more FaceTime here.
All right. So we're going to open it up for questions in just a moment, and we'll go about 10 more minutes right up till the 6 o'clock session. So I'll just say very quickly, after your event is done, it's not done. Take those videos and convert them into podcasts. I recommend anchor.fm. It's in my PDF that I'm about to link to in a minute here about all the best free and discounted tools that we use and recommend. Turn your videos from your summit into blog posts, ebooks, e-courses. You can do so much with it. Short little videos, social posts. Maximize that with content repurposing. Jeff, if you don't mind, just click leave. You can join us just on you'll hear us without.
And I wanted to give a shout out to Mernalini and the women's march. Thank you so much also for promoting Organize 2.0. And again, they didn't ask for anything in return. They just did it in solidarity. So thank you, Women's March. Thank you for supporting us, Mernalini, and being in solidarity.
Yeah, we're really happy about this event and the way it's gone. I mean, I think that we were expecting about 300 people, and we have about 1,800 that have signed up. So it's good stuff. We're pretty thrilled to have all of you on here. You really made this possible.
But I really needed this experience as well, because it's been heavy. It's been a rough month, y'all. It's been a rough month. y'all. And just being together with this space, I am so grateful to connect with everybody and the incredible session leaders and the organizers of the Organize 2.0 team. Just awesome. Really fun crew.
Cool. So we already talked about the Badass Women of the Resistance. This is the upcoming summit the three of us have been putting on. Now, in the chat, you'll find the long-awaited link for the free and cheap marketing tools. Just drop your email on this page and you'll automatically get this PDF I've put together. I have built up this list of tools for about a decade. We use these with our clients and internally. I think you guys are going to love this. We'll email out the checklist for the event list at the end.
Advantage of booking a session. Go to the booth after, sign up for a session, let Daniel, Michelle, and I, take a look under the hood, and we'll just support you. Whether or not we work together, that's another thing, but really just allow us to serve you.
Mm-hmm.
Does anyone have any questions at this point?
Yeah, so we've got some questions. Stephanie, I need you to make that Google Doc public. It's still private. And last thing I want to mention is we are offering, you won't be able to see this very big right now, but I'm going to paste in the link. We're offering free consultations. If you're interested in putting together an event, if you enjoyed this chat here, the three of us are going to be happy to talk to you about what it takes to put this together and share some specific ideas for you. So you can click that link and or join us in our We and Goliath booth in the expo. We're happy to chat with you about your events. So let's do some questions. Michelle, check your push bullet for the link to the questions. Jay, I'm going to chat this to you right now. So first question, Jay, how do you give your sponsors maximum value? What is it that they appreciate most?
It really is going to depend on each one. I would say eyeballs, number of eyeballs, whether it's through the emails that get sent out and the social media. For some, it's also association. So it's association with the people that you're working with. It can be a little dicey. I really try to be conscious of who I'm partnering with, because it's the integrity of your mission or brand. If you're trying to do a climate action, Coca-Cola or Red Bull, probably not a great fit, but there are tons of partners that, whether or not you like Tom Steyer, NextGen, for instance, is a partner. We did a big event called Climate Revolution with Josh Fox at the DNC, and they came in at the last minute and helped us out. So there are partners out there. You can also crowdfund as well, so those small dollar donations. Don't be afraid to crowdfund as well. But I would say at the end of the day, it's about either brand halo effect or eyeballs, straight up. How many people you can generate, how many eyeballs you can generate.
We've got a question about how long to make a virtual summit or conference. Should we just pack in a ton of value in a short period of time or spread it out?
Depends, but I recommend, I didn't really follow this well. There's something like 19 different speakers up there for free right now that's just living up there. There's 19 trainings with incredible speakers. It is recommended to choose one length and stick to it. I didn't subscribe to that very well. But whether it's 20 minutes or half an hour, 45, you really can, it doesn't matter, but just choose one. And also choosing your format, there's a couple different formats. One can be to do it every day. And basically the promise is people who sign up will get a different email with a different speaker every day. It could be a 2-day, like our upcoming Badass Women. That's a 2-day summit, like Organize 2.0 is a 2.0. You could is a 2-day summit, or you can do it once a week and do it at a rate, but do it at the same time. And if you're promoting, Facebook Lives, things like that, doing it at the same time builds trust as well. So I recommend that, build trust with your audience. Know that at Wednesday, 6 p.m., we're doing I'm just teaching a free COVID meditation group. And so you can email me about that every 9 p.m. East time. we're doing a free COVID meditation support group. So you can hit me up about that. But they know that I will be there every night at 6 p.m. regardless.
With a conference as well, I mean, Jay's referring more to the summit format, but with a conference, you want to also think about, like, in person, how long do you really want to be hanging out at a conference? And typically it's not much longer than a long weekend. So think about it that way. So 2-3 days, that's about the max that most people can handle of something as intense as this.
Oh, other little pro tip, day 2 p.m. is a great time to, after lunch, great time to have an ask if you want to, if you have something to engage them and a call to action for them as well. That's a good little tip.
All right. Somebody asked, where do I find a list of possible sponsor ideas? I like to say, steal sponsors from your competitors. So look for other conferences and see who's sponsoring them. Reach out to those same people.
Or you can contact those sponsors and you can contact the event and create a transformative relationship with them, and you can ask it. You can also ask. That's another way to do it as well.
A couple of people are asking about the slides. Yeah, we're going to be emailing that out to everybody. Somebody said, can you discuss the best platforms for the summit? So that's something that we consult with people about. Just send us an email, visit our website, and we're happy to talk to you about that software.
We in Goliath has licensed a bunch of this software. So the licensing fees are fake because it can be really expensive.
Yeah, so we actually invested in Hopin early, months ago, and have a way to make these events much cheaper than if you go to Hopin directly. If you want to do a multi-day event with Hopin right now, it costs $10,000 to $30,000 to use their software and get a little consulting from them.
Real quick question from Mary. How can we follow Indigenous protocol throughout the planning and fulfillment? Well, it would help to have Indigenous people involved, right? And Joy Braun had made a comment about that, like, who are you accountable to? So that is a powerful thing as well. So who is on your team? You can handle that through inclusion as well.
There's also a question about an example of an event you organized but you considered a failure, and why was this, and what were the lessons that you learned? I have to say, I will say that I don't really consider any of the events that we've done a failure necessarily. I have invested tens of thousands of dollars into physical events that ended up not very many people showing up. But at the end of the day, the connections that were made and the relationships that were built by those small events ended up triggering so much more in the future. So really, don't be afraid to just try. You can.
This in particular was because, like, we didn't have the hugest list build from Be the Revolution, and but because we had done this, that's why Charles called us, right? So I would also say that give yourself time. And my biggest, I would say, a lesson was choosing people on my team that I didn't know well enough to trust, and that's where a lot of it's broken down for me, is working with people that I didn't know well enough and found that we were in different places. But I think it's almost time to go over to the main stage for Claire Sandberg and Charles.
Amazing. Thank you guys so much for joining us and all the interaction. We got a lot of love on here, and you guys are awesome. We're looking forward to staying in touch. So again, if anybody's interested in a one-on-one consult with us, just head over to the expo booth. You'll find us there with a link to just click register interest, or leave your email on our website. So
yeah, and with plenty of opportunities to support these ongoing efforts. We could use your help as well on the books and the summits and all that stuff. So Dankeschön, auf Wiedersehen.
All right.
CC, if you don't want to leave, if you still have some questions, feel free to stick around. You don't have to just bounce. We're going to be here and we can answer a few questions. So
yeah, we'll just stay for a couple minutes.
It'll be really good.
Yeah, we're going to bounce to the stage in just a minute here. If anybody else has final question, feel free to pop it in the chat.
Yeah, and also let us know, what did you like? What worked? What did you like about this?
Yeah, I would love to hear it. Type your favorite part of the talk. What's your key takeaway? Or one of the things that you loved most? Put that in the chat or a question. Indira says everything.
Oh,
You guys are so sweet. Wilder says, hoping to see more on equity, race, class analysis, and virtual organizing.
yeah, absolutely. So just so you know, be the women, be the revolutionary, be the revolution's badass women of the resistance, and the how to create vision, strategies, and solidarity. Is the entire summit is about intersectionality. That is the linchpin of the entire summit, is intersectionality. So if you want to watch that series, we talk about intersectionality in almost every single one of those videos. We talk about intersectionality.
Awesome. Thank you all for sharing your favorite tips here. It feels really good to hear back all these things that you appreciated. Mark says he wants to hear about online fundraiser event. We'd be happy to chat with you about that. Just reach out to us.
Yep, movement building, solidarity, brothers and sisters, and others. Solidarity, absolutely. Transformational, transformative relationships.
Mm-hmm. Be radically authentic. Mm-hmm. People liked our sponsorship tips, promotion tips. Thank you guys. This is great. Any last questions? Last minute here before we bounce over to the final bonus event they organized. It sounds really amazing.
It's going to be good. We should go.
It'll be on the stage or the sessions?
What's that?
It's in the sessions or the stage?
I'm pretty sure it's on the stage.
Okay. All right, guys. We're going to call it a day. Thanks again. We and Goliath. Just look for our follow-up email if you left us an email. And that's it. Peace, y'all. Be in touch. And we'll talk to you soon. Jay, you're the best. Love you, man. Cheers, all. Peace.